Welcome to Rewrite the Mother Code, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way that you never have before, but have always needed. It's time to rewrite the mother code. Welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code. With me, your host, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. I'm really looking forward to this particular interview because Michelle, who you'll be meeting, Michelle Yu, sounds like a real powerhouse, beautiful, lovely mom, business owner, co-founder and CEO of a business called Josie that you're going to hear all about. I love sometimes in these interviews where someone was referred to me because they're like, oh my gosh, this woman's perfect for your podcast. And they've been so inspired by her. And then they share it with me. And it's like what I love about just doing podcasts in general are the connections I get to make and then get to share. So we're going to be meeting and getting to know Michelle together. And I'm excited about that because, you know, even what I know of her and her story, I'm really starting to appreciate and be with and acknowledge women who built and had big successful careers and then choose to go into motherhood of children and are kind of shocked to see, wow, like there's so many gaps and holes in the support, the what it takes, the spaces to really thrive, you know, as a woman who works both in the home, outside the home, all these realms that, you know, and adding this whole realm of mothering of children to your plate is tough and a big deal and also beautiful and wonderful. And I really want, you know, women to be out here supporting, sharing with each other what's possible when we work as one team, since we're all mothers, as mothers, right? That we really are all in this together. And there's no one right way, one way to do it. And when we honor each other's choices, that's huge. And it's going to, I believe, be life-changing and not just life-changing, but world-changing. It's not only better for us, it's better for our world, our planet, you know, when we're all working together on the same team, supporting each other to grow, develop, thrive in all the ways possible that we can. So I know you all know this, but I love doing that. And I love doing it individually with women. I love doing it through this podcast. So any and all ways that I can support you, I'm in for it, up for it. I'm on board and I just need to hear from you. So please reach out if you haven't signed up or are on my newsletter list where I let people know of all the things happening in the Rewrite the Mother Code world. I would love to have you. So you can go to my website, www.Gertrude, GERTRUDE, Lyons, LYONS.com, drgertrudelyons.com. Sign up for my newsletter, check out coaching, check out retreats, and any and all things that I have there and really want to and hope to serve you with. So here we go. Let's talk to Michelle. Can't wait. Well, here we are, as I said, because I did a little recording before we got on, Michelle, just saying how excited I was to have you, which I am. So Michelle, welcome to Rewrite the Mother Code podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a delight. And I mentioned, you know, how I met you through someone else who has been on the podcast, Yan Dang. And I knew if she felt like, you know, oh my gosh, Michelle will be a great guest. I didn't question it for a second. So yay, I'm excited. I'm excited for our conversation today.
So am I. Yan and I go way back, more years than I can count. We were college roommates.
I don't think she told me that part. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it. That's even better.
So hopefully
Even then.
she share too many stories.
No, yeah, she didn't. She's been good. So, but now I might ask her for some now that I know.
I love
Yeah,
it.
college stories. Yeah, they can be something. Okay, well, I will go ahead and share with the audience like what you're up to, a little bit of your, the formal bio stuff, and then we'll get, more personal and into it from there. So,
Okay.
Michelle, you MPH, what is that?
So that's a master's in public health.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Master's in Public Health, right? Co-founder and CEO of Josie.
That's right.
Named after her daughter, Josie's vision is to transform the working parent experience. After navigating the many challenges associated with 2 pregnancies, 2 leaves, 2 returns to a very busy healthcare consulting career, Michelle developed a longing to create a more empowered and supported transition into working parenthood. So prior to Josie, a little backstory, Michelle was a founding member and partner with the advisory board company's strategy consulting practice, and continued on through its acquisition by Optum. Michelle also spent time on the strategy consulting teams at Booz and Company and Deloitte. She received her master's in public health from the University of Michigan and bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois. So I know those are all but they're important. We worked hard for those accomplishments, and it's a beautiful set of accomplishments. But I also, as I mentioned, prior is it's what I'd love to hear and have you just share about your journey is women who, had great careers and then added motherhood of children to it, and seeing these big gaps and, how unsupported or where there's just so much need, to what it takes to be successful in all those realms. And then people like you who do something about it, that don't just complain. It's like, well, let me take my skills and actually help with this. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey, your story, wherever you want to pick up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. And when you read it out loud that way too, it's kind of nice to see how those pieces all sort of fit together and led me to where I am today. So I love that you mentioned all that. And so I think a great place to pick up is maybe really in 2018 when I was pregnant and had my first child, my son Theodore, who's now 5. And during that time, I was already pretty far along in my career as a management consultant, and I loved my career. A big part of my identity and who I was. It was so important to me. And I loved everything about it. I loved traveling to clients. I loved working with hospitals, which is primarily who my customer base was. Yeah. I felt very honored to get to work in healthcare and make healthcare better. I was very connected to the mission of the organizations I worked with. I also really liked everything that went along into being a consultant, which included late night working sessions, hotel room PowerPoint making at midnight with the team.
Yes.
The team bonding, the happy hours, all of it. It was, I really found a lot of purpose in what I did. And I was, as I mentioned earlier, I had gotten pretty far along before I became pregnant with my first child. I was nearing sort of that partner level role within the company. And it was a big role and sales targets, big name clients, managing a lot of team members. And when I became pregnant, and I remember thinking before I went out on leave, I was thinking to myself, it's going to be fine. It's going to be the same. I'll figure it out. I've gone through it all.
Yes.
And that was definitely not the case. And so, when I was approaching my return to work, which I think for my first child, I had a total of 12 weeks off. And not all of that was paid, which
that's
is
what I was going to say. I know that's a whole nother trajectory.
It's a whole other
conversation.
We could have a podcast just on that. But
absolutely.
I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
I have a partner, fortunately, that also works. But from a financial perspective, I had to go back to work, and I just remember it being very challenging. And there were so many things that went with it, not only from a sleep deprivation and breastfeeding and that perspective, but also, all these questions swirling in my head about what is my identity now as a working mother in this environment? How does this change the dynamics of the relationships that are around me, if at all? Maybe I'm overthinking it. Do I just kind of hop right back in and do exactly what I was doing before? Are there other paths? What do I really want? And there's just a lot of swirling questions that I think I did not proactively get out ahead of. In hindsight, would have. Anyways,
codes that are written that we're just, somehow supposed to know how to do all of this and make these transitions, and then we feel bad and guilty that we think we're the only ones that didn't know, but everybody else must have known, right? Or
yes, yeah, because
right?
It hasn't been done before, right?
Right.
But I think someone said this to me once. Someone said this to me recently, I should say, that I was interviewing, and she's also a mother, and she was saying that it's this huge life transition that for many of us, go through maybe a few times in our lives.
Right.
Some more than others. And, because it is not a recurring event, you kind of just move past it, and then you'll forget about it, or you try to forget about some of the challenging aspects of it.
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but what ends up happening is that there's no, it kind of stays status quo the way that it is. It stays challenging because we're all just trying to get through this really challenging time, get past it, and then we move on. But that means that it just stays that way.
Right. Right. And it's something, and I love how you said that. It's like just something we just, kind of hold in our minds, like to get through it. Right. And that's something I wanted, specifically to bust paradigms around. It's like, well, that would be a waste of time to just get through something and hope that this hard part is going to be over. And it does, like I think the intensity does flatten out some. It's always hard, there's always some level of hard, but it's really intense there for a while. But that is, the prime time and possibilities for our growth and development, for us to dig in versus step back and just like muscle through, and we really do ourselves a disservice. So
yes,
that may be where you were headed, but I wanted to underline that. Yeah.
I love that you said that. It was such a great transition to exactly what I was going to say next, was that we talk about it a lot and frame it up as this challenging time that's about survival. But I like to flip the script on that and really think about it more so as an incredible opportunity to actually pause and think about who you are as a working mother, as a working parent, more intentionally. A great quote that I read in 𝐒𝐿 Brodsky, if you've heard of 𝐒𝐿 Brodsky.
Of course. Yes.
Of course you did. You have. She's awesome. And I think it was in Find Your Unicorn Space. And she had quoted, she had quoted another psychologist, but the quote was essentially saying that these periods of, you're out of the normal ways of being. So something like a parental leave, for example, are incredibly challenging, but they are the perfect time for reflection and self-reflection and thinking about, what's important to you, especially if you're changing your identity, which is what happens when you become a parent.
Right.
Whether first time, second time, third time, something's changing about who you are. And we don't pause to think about that. It's just status quo is to kind of power through. And so I love turning this event and framing it in a more positive light, and that there is this opportunity for people to really think about their personal and professional growth in this moment, and not have it be defined as just, I have to get through it. I have to get through it. That's all it is. I just got to get through it.
We're two peas in a pod on that one, Michelle. Like and that was, you mentioned, 𝐒𝐿 quoting, and when I did my doctoral research, like that was a big thing that I wanted to underline, and found really great research on in our human development. It's times of challenge, chaos, disruption, like all these things, like COVID, right? Like new motherhood, COVID, like it is counterintuitive, because I think there is a part in our brain, because our brain just wants to protect us and keep us safe. So it's going to like, just hunker down. You can, like, just, do this thing and you can do it. As opposed to like, no, like, open and yourself to it. And I always think of the metaphor when people would say, because I never became like a great skier, but I took some ski lessons, right? And they're like, you're on this hill on these skis, and they're like, put your body forward. And I'm like, no, I want to, I'm like, no, like, that's not what my body wants to do. It doesn't want to like head down that hill head first. Yeah. It wants to like pull back. And I think that's but that posture is what actually gets you down the safest. And it's where there's way more security there than we realize when we do exactly what, you're underlining and speaking into too, which is like, no, wait, hello. I just want to let you know this. And for me, it's like, and just to know this is possible, right? Everyone might not choose it. And so, okay. So keep going. Because
I think, I was going to say, continue your analogy though. I think, which I love is, you had in the skiing analogy, there's someone there to help you out.
Yes. There you go. Yep. Love it. Perfect segue.
And I think that's really important too, is one of the things I keep hearing from our clients all the time is just how lonely it can be when you are a new parent and you can't do it alone. And also to just not feel so alone, that are you the only one that is going through this and having these thoughts? Is this wrong in some way? Should I be this perfect, loving new mother or father or whatever it is? And if not, am I doing something wrong? And so I think finding support in this time is incredibly important, and not having to do it alone is so important. For many women in particular that I know that are like me, that were very invested in their careers, are very type A, assuming leadership roles, asking for help can often be difficult. Or admitting that you need.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I've felt that acutely, not only as a mother, but since becoming an entrepreneur. I think that I have had to ask for help more than ever before in my career. And that has been a wonderful thing in just helping me grow as an individual, being vulnerable to more people, saying it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to admit that you don't know everything and you're not perfect, and it's okay. I think I have learned that lesson.
I continue to learn it, right?
Accelerated trajectory since launching this business, never before. And so, so that's really important for us, and something that we do is really helping to give that support.
So why don't you share a little bit more specifically now that you've, opened the space? And I'd love to, because that is the mission of Josie, is to get that support to, I don't know if it's just moms, parents, but either way. Yeah.
Great.
Led you to start this. This is great.
I'll start with the last part of your question, and that is we service all parents or anyone who identifies as a parent. So this includes birthing, non-birthing, adoptive parents, anyone who identifies as a parent can receive Josie services. And our mission, as you mentioned at the top of the call, is to transform the working parent experience. And we do this in 3 ways. And I'll start by saying we primarily work directly with organizations. In order to see that impact, it is so important to ensure that the environments in which working parents are in, that they can thrive in those environments. And so really important for us to, if we want to see that impact, we have to work at the organizational level and partner with employers to do so. So that is our business model. So the 3 pillars of what we do are A, we work directly with organizational leaders. That could be people leaders, HR leaders, DEI leaders, in identifying ways to advance cultures for working parents and ensuring an inclusive culture for working parents. The second pillar of what we do is we work directly with working parents. And so currently we service those with children up to the age of 5. The reason why we've started this way is there's a lot of data and research out there that show that parents in this particular cohort with children under age 5 are the most vulnerable in terms of taking career pauses, leaving careers altogether, changing tracks. So say someone like me as a consultant, I was on a partner track. I am now going to choose a different direction. And so we've intentionally focused on this cohort so that we can intervene and provide support for those individuals directly through a program we've developed that's specifically geared at supporting them.
Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of 𝐒𝐡𝐤, Mexico. 𝐒𝐡𝐤 meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if the idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up, but now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat.
And then the third piece that we do is we work directly with their managers. So really important that we service that working parent, but at the same time, give their people leaders the tools, the skill, the education on how to appropriately support that working parent at work, so that they can show up, bring their full selves, have intentional conversations, and thrive in those workplaces. And so that is what we do.
I just want to celebrate that you do this. It's that this is happening, right? Because this is so important. And I had these thoughts like, oh, like what? Because I do believe that, like, yes, the parent, they need direct support. And a lot of that is around supporting them to get support, and that's okay. And the words I use, like busting the myths, there's so many, these rewriting and deciding how the mothering journey or parent journey that you want to have, and really creating that. But I'm really intrigued by this approach where, the organization is part of that with them. And I'm curious if you don't mind sharing. So what are some of the ways, like, are they hearing the same thing that the parent's hearing as a manager? Are they, is this, and I don't mean like basic social emotional intelligence, but getting some sort of education or training on how to be with someone versus, how they're going to get their job done. Right.
Right. Yes. Yeah, for sure. On the manager component specifically, we combine elements of content, education, and coaching for that manager so that we can also help that manager feel empowered to have great communication, intentional conversations with that individual.
Okay.
So often this starts with some just education, because unless you've been through it yourself recently, or even if you have, I think just understanding some of the statistics and data around the common challenges for working parents is an eye opener for a lot of the managers that we work with. And they're like, this is just really good for me to know.
Exactly. Can you share
Yeah.
one of those statistics? Like, because I know some of them, but I don't know that everyone does. So what is something that's helpful?
Yeah, there's quite a few. So a few
I
I'll
know.
so
Sorry, putting you on the
so
spot.
oh, no, it's okay. So 66% of working parents, this is from the Ohio State University, are experiencing burnout, which is, higher than overall average of workforce. 61% of new mothers are not emotionally or mentally prepared to return to work following parental leave. I believe close to a quarter of those mothers also feel like they won't have the skills to do their jobs anymore in the same way that they had before. So it's some of that imposter syndrome creeping back in and
Sure.
self-doubt that happens after you're away. So those are just a few examples.
No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important because I think we all need to hear those more. Right. And because, if I'm not involved in that arena, or I'm not working with somebody, or I'm not in the midst of it, who cares? Right. But no, we all need to care.
Yeah.
And mamas and parents need a lot of support. Okay. Keep going.
No, absolutely. And then what we're able to do, and this is where the coaching of the individuals and the organizational work come together, is for all of our participants, we do pre and post program surveys, and we learn a lot about the overall sentiments of that individual, how they feel about the environments they work in, what are their most common challenges, what are they most concerned about, what are they most excited about.
Yeah.
And we are able to share that information back with the organizations that we work with and help them start to uncover opportunities to advance their culture. And that has been so powerful.
Wow.
We combine that with the insights we get from the coaching, of course, all in aggregate and all themes, right? We don't share anything
personal, right?
personal about any individual, but the amount of rich insights that we get from just being able to support these individuals are powerful understandings and insights for organizations that they can use to shape how they want to approach this going forward.
I didn't even realize that was a part of it, Michelle, which is just so powerful that you're collecting data, right? And using it because, you're supporting people and they will probably reflect, some positive results and stuff. But, to start a database of this, to now be building your own set of data and research is amazing, right? And I love that so much. And what are some of the common themes that, you hear from clients and that are showing up as you've been doing this?
Gosh. Yeah. So I think a few I will mention. One is something I think I mentioned earlier in the call, is this feeling of isolation and I'm alone in this. It's so interesting because, even though clients, they have other friends who've gone through it, they have peer groups, there's people at work that have gone through it. For whatever reason, there's still this feeling of like, I'm on my own. I'm the only one that's experiencing this. I shouldn't feel so guilty. I shouldn't feel like, that I'm not over the moon all the time about baby. And I don't know if that just comes with, an overload of social media, or I'm not sure what it is and where we get these notions. But for parents today, there's just a lot of pressure.
Yes.
There's pressures, and it's almost like there's almost so much information out there and so many
much
that there's no way that you can do it all and do it all right, quote unquote. So I think one of the biggest value adds that we're able to give to our clients is all of our coaches have working parent experience. They've all been through it. And the feedback we get is just being able to talk to someone outside my organization and know that I am not the only one that has gone through this. is
Mm-hmm.
hugely valuable.
Love it.
That has been a huge theme. The other theme that I love, and this is one of the most impactful pieces, I think, of our program, is people love being more intentional
Mm-hmm.
about their working parent identity. So, yes,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, that has been awesome to be able to work with people in thinking through, okay, I have now added parent to my resume, or whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to call it,
No, for sure.
mother, father, adoptive parent, whatever it is. And this is a great time to reflect on my changing priorities, my values, my
Mm.
vision for myself. Working parents, I think, often are just kind of in reactive mode,
Yeah.
always feeling like you're just reacting to the next thing. Being able to get out a little bit ahead of that has been tremendously powerful for our clients. And so I think that is huge as well. And then the last thing I'll say thematically is a lot of our clients are interested in developing communication skills for the changing dynamics of their life and how they bring that to work, and how they advocate for themselves, how they think more creatively about how to make things work for themselves and their team members and their leaders, because many of them are excited to return to work, actually, which is
Yeah.
also a huge theme. They love their jobs. They want to go back and they want to make it work, but they don't always have the clarity of how that's going to work, and then how to communicate it and work with their managers, their leaders, their team members to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think has been a really interesting theme, is that most people are really excited about their professional identities.
Yeah.
Just need a path, some help. They just need a little bit of help in figuring out
Right.
that path forward.
Shaping it, forming it, giving them, the proper vocabulary, like putting it all in context to a degree. I think this is more prominent with women, the mom role.
Yeah.
We have been, it's like, where did this come from? Well, we've been wired for so long in different ways, that this is our purpose on the planet. So
Yeah.
God, like there's got to be a right way to do it, because someone decided in a
Right.
patriarchal paradigm to assign us this ultimate purpose, which
Yeah.
sounds like really lovely. And then you realize how limited it is. It's like, no, I believe my purpose is way more expanded than that. And yay, isn't it so miraculous and awesome that I can give birth to a child, or
And that.
now
Yes.
bring my mothering energy. And I think it particularly, in research I've done, like looked at like in the 50s, probably before that, was really when it first started seeing parenting as a job. Right. And once
Yeah.
we put it in that framework, because what we know about that framework is you get graded, you get reviewed, it's like school or work, where there's measurable ways to show
Yeah.
if you're doing it right and doing a good job. And there is none of that and there won't be, and there's not
It won't
supposed
be.
to be,
Nope.
because it's not, it can't fit into that paradigm. So of course we're going to feel like
Yes.
just like, what the F, right? Like this, oh, who's giving me my annual review, right? Like they're not my family and not social media, because I'm
Right.
supposed to, then like you said, social media, I'm supposed to look like this
Yes. Right.
perfect family, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
eating the perfect food and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
And yes,
Yeah.
there are
Saying all the
women
right things. Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
all the right things, and look at how amazing my kids are, and as a reflection of me, because that's what we then start thinking, like, oh, that means them
Yes.
doing well in school, them, then I feel like my job is to shape them and mold them. Allison, I think you'd love this book. Alison Gopnik's The Carpenter versus the Gardener, or Gardener versus Carpenter.
Okay.
She's a child development psychologist, but her whole intro and just talking about this and how we got here is really powerful. But her whole
Yeah.
thing is like, we now believe that we are carpenters trying to like mold and shape, and it's our job to like make that person, versus a garden where, we've planted seeds, we've gotten something going here, but there's a whole lot of factors that are also going to play into how, and yes, we need to weed the garden and nourish it, but that's our job, and then it gets to grow into the being it's meant to be. And I think that's so hard for us. It's like, no, that being has to get into Harvard.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Then I know, then I'm
100%.
successful, right? The ultimate goal, right? Getting in an Ivy League school. Then I must have done my
Then I
job well.
succeeded. Right. Right. And I love what you said about how we think that they are a reflection of who we are.
Right.
It's another added pressure that we put on ourselves.
Right. I
For
know.
whatever reason, I think that parents today have this added pressure. It's so interesting because I interviewed my own mother
Nice.
Mother's Day because she was a working parent.
Yeah.
In just having that space for her to reflect and interview her, she's like, my gosh, you all put a lot of pressure on yourselves today. She's like, she was actually great. She was like, you don't have to. She's like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I thought that was like
That's beautiful.
It was really beautiful. But yeah, I need to read that book.
Yeah.
So perfect.
It gets, then very into like kind of child development type stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff. And she's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful in that regard. But just looking at these different historical points or these inflection points where, this wiring just gets deeper and deeper that, there's some right way, as you said, to do it. So to have, I love the different, ways. It's not just one way you're supporting, but with the coach and with the education and the support of managers getting on the same page. It's brilliant. I'm so excited. That's what you're doing. And it's true that just in one sense, like the biggest thing might be that they have someone to talk to and they're not alone, because I think, breaking that barrier and part of that is that we somehow did come to believe that we're supposed to know all this already and think we're the only ones, going through it. Even though we're hearing other people kind of go through it, we just still think something's ultimately flawed with us about it, right?
Yeah. And the last thing I'll add to that is with regards to your comment about, we're wired or whatever, rewriting the code, right? Is I think, at least for myself and with some of my peers that I've spoken to, when you've been in a career for a while, and you've been successful in that career before having children, you think you have a lot of control over how that looks. You are able to make that look how you want it to be, and you're able to shape that.
Totally.
You have much less control on when it comes to your child. And there's a big gap there, I think. And that's where a lot of the angst, I think, lives. And I think that's something I learned when I became a parent, that I think is just something to say out loud and reflect on. And probably one of the big drivers for some of that anxiety that we see, the 61% figure that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And we see even higher among our clients, closer to 80% for our own clients. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to build off that comment you had.
No, thank you. It's so important. And the other thing I want to acknowledge about what you're doing is, because I think there probably also are a lot of, parents, women, mothers out there who know that getting support would help them, but they, that's an added expense. That's, what's that going to, so that you're in the company and having companies provide it, because we also talked about like how little, if any, paid leave people get for time off. And, this right now we're like, woo, wow, what a rare benefit, but it should be the norm, right? Like
absolutely. And the value proposition should be clear to employers. I think it's, first of all, there's a statistic that's often quoted that close to 40% of working mothers will leave or scale back in their careers within a year following parental leave. In healthcare, female physicians, 4 in 10, will also leave their careers within 6 years of medical training. These are people who invested heavily in their careers.
Oh my God.
And choosing to leave. So first of all, the retention argument and the return on investment there is a no-brainer. The cost of replacing these leaders are huge. But I think even more important than that is these are some of your best leaders and team members in your workforce. There is a lot of data and research out there that shows that working parents make for great leaders. They're more empathetic. They create collaborative environments. They know how to prioritize. these are skills that you want in your organization. And so you want to make sure that you keep this cohort engaged. And oftentimes they are the ones that are also sort of in that mid-career phase.
Yeah,
They're sort
exactly.
of rising leaders in companies oftentimes. And so it's really important to retain them.
Assume that's where we could go with that. And I'm so glad you did, because it does seem like a very obvious, but I'm sure not. I'm sure there's reasons companies like say they can't or whatever, but they'll catch on. But and, I think particularly there's what parents can bring to an organization now having this experience. And I think particularly, the mothering experience is what's missing. I think we do have maybe a bit more of the father, I'm going to call it masculine yang, perspective, where it's like expectations and go for it, and like good stuff. It's not like, but it's just out of balance. We don't have enough of, and when you say that, like important, like keeping leaders, like I do think particularly a certain level of feminine leadership and, what that's different from, that value base that has been not as acknowledged and dismissed and left out. We desperately need it, in the companies and in our world. And so, that this is helping make that happen is something that warms my heart, makes me really happy.
And and yes, absolutely. And it's not only something that I think it warms my heart, makes me very happy too. There is real data and research up behind it. I would point your listeners to both Bright Horizons and McKinsey. Both have studies out there about working mothers in particular and their leadership styles and how that impacts an organization. And there's a real ROI case.
There's a whole lot of data.
Yeah, I know, because you do.
Well, no, exactly. But like things that you don't think about, you just think like, oh, it'll be a nicer environment. Like, no, actually your profits are better, retention's better, like concrete things are better, not just, oh, by the way, people enjoy themselves and are taking care of themselves and happier. Like, we'll just add that, aspect, which is pretty important.
Exactly.
Well, Michelle, this is just so both important and, critical that we're looking at and thinking. And I'm so grateful that you've taken your skills, from all of your background, and now you're channeling that energy, into something that's so profoundly needed. I couldn't be happier. So how can people find out more about you, Josie, for their companies, for themselves, however, wherever?
Thank you for asking. I would say I would direct folks to our website, which is myjosie.com. That's MYJOSIE.com, or they can reach out directly to me. I'm Michelle, MICHELLE at myjosie.com. I am always looking to connect with folks who are either working parents themselves, or maybe they're expecting, or employers who are interested in working with us. Really anyone who's also passionate about supporting this population and making the world a little bit better for working parents, I am always excited to connect with. So I would love to connect with folks who are interested.
Yeah, hear. Well, I hope you hear from many of them. And if we think of it, we'll try and also get the links to the couple studies that you mentioned. I always like to add some of that into the show notes, etc. So last question that I ask all my guests is, what does rewrite the mother code mean to you?
Ooh, okay. That's a good question. I would say that for me in particular, we need to flip the script on what it means to be a working parent, working mother. And instead of it being framed up as a challenge, as something that's a barrier, that's something that is disempowering, and reframe it as one of the most powerful ways to grow as a personally and professionally, and as one of the greatest assets to our economy and to the organizations that they work for.
You're here. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I do love the, how personal and also spot on. People's shares are, and yours is no exception, and is right there. So thank you so much, Michelle, for jumping on, being part and sharing, doing what you're doing, but also now sharing it and spreading the word of Josie, you, and, parents, mothers, us all getting empowered to be in this journey in a whole nother level.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you for all your thoughtful questions, and I really enjoyed it.
Yay. Okay, good. Well, that's important. Just as important as Thanks, Michelle. Oh my gosh, what an amazing, wonderful conversation with Michelle. I didn't expect it not to be necessarily, but I was just sharing with her that I loved her energy. I loved how clear and her expertise, and just, again, thanking her for, finding this gap and putting all of her skills, on how to do something like this into action and actually making it happen and making a difference to so many moms, parents, through their company. And I know I said that in there, but anywhere that we can get the support, because, not everyone has the means to get all the levels of support that can really benefit us. And especially if you want to go on this transformational journey in the motherhood, and understand that this is an inflection point where working on, healing from our past, and that not only is going to support us, it will make us a better mother, parent when we do that. And we not only better, but we get to enjoy it more. We get to have moments of actual presence with our children, with ourselves first, and with our partners, with our children. And I think that's where some of the gold is, that we don't really realize is going to be at the other side of getting in the muck of it all, and digging in and adding what feels like adding to our plate of craziness and chaos, just to, do our days with, especially, new, younger, little ones, that there are ways that we can put ourselves in the mix. And to me, that's the deepest self-mothering we can do, is when we include ourselves in the learning and growing and the development. And, we're not as available, not as present when we're only putting out, when we feel like, or we buy into the paradigm that it's our job to put our children, our partners, if we have them, our careers first, and we're way down the list. No, just never works. And we keep proving that, but we keep still thinking maybe somehow it will, but it doesn't. Just want to send big blessings to you on your journey, wherever you're currently mothering. And that's for anyone who's listening to this, men, women, parents of children, not, wherever you are on that continuum, that the self-mothering and that aspect of mothering ourselves is so important and so valuable. And I wish you much of it in the coming days. Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to Rewrite the Mother Code. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women, well, actually everybody, men included, to find it. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons, or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com, and sign up for my newsletter. I'll see you next time.